Hello friends, Jeff here from Squadron. Welcome back to another segment of the build of the F-14A Tomcat. So let's get started. Now we're going to look into the wheel well. I think we can completely assemble this without too much trouble. The detail is absolutely phenomenal. What I'm going to do is, in this case, I'm going to do only one sidewall of the wheel well because it needs to be painted and also it needs to be taken care of before I close the fuselage. I really want to do a good job on that as far as weathering. Since this is probably going to paint it white, I need to make sure that I have enough access with my paintbrush, with my airbrush also, to cover all the corners. I'm going to leave one side off, probably the one with the little mechanism. It's done for painting purposes. I don't want to close the four sides up because then I might run into a problem. I have to be absolutely sure that I have enough room to paint the detail in there, especially since it's such a tight fit. I don't see any problems in assembling it after it's painted. Cleaning the pieces is such a joy since I don't have to worry about flash or anything. You just have to completely remove the attachment points. Talking about the ejection marks, they really are to the bare minimum, and as with other manufacturers, but especially with Tamiya, they're always placed on a non-visible. They engineered it in such a way that it doesn't interfere with anything. Some of the kits that you come across, sometimes you get these little sunken ejection marks. It's a pain to clean those or to maneuver in between detail to get those things restored, but in this case you don't have to worry about that. It's all in the plan and the grand scheme of having to have enjoyment during the build, where you don't have to worry about all these complicated things that might burn you out after a while. So Tamiya, it's just like you clip something from the sprue, you clean it up at a bare minimum, and you're good to go. That's what modeling is all about. Now, I'm gonna keep this separate too. I don't know if you really can see it, but it's a little free floating here. I don't want to jeopardize it, so I'm gonna keep all these pieces separate. After airbrushing, I can easily weather it. I can get weathering into all the crevices and the detail and all that, and then eventually I can add some to it. I think it's gonna look a lot better and a lot easier to do, and the result will be there. This part is also part of the wheel landing gear, the front wheel landing gear. Maybe I'll put these small parts again in one of the bindi boxes, just not to lose anything. So now we also already got step 5 and 6 cleared. Now it's time to look for the front fuselage and prepare that for airbrushing in spaces where the cockpit is going to be. So we're going to prepare all these pieces here, and then also a part of the canopy frame. This is where Tamiya really shines. I've seen a lot of good kits. For one, Zukimura is a good brand. There are several out there, but nothing like this. You know, when Tamiya claimed that they went all the way with this kit, they weren't joking. I never seen detail as crisp and as clean as this one. The panel lines is as good as it gets. I don't know in any distant or immediate future that this can be improved. This is absolutely top-notch. Even now, and I've seen the kit several times, I looked at it several times, but it still blows me away how refined and true to scale these panel lines are. It's also going to be a joy to paint and to weather. I'm really looking forward to it. But before we reach that stage, we have to do a little bit of gluing. And as I said, I don't get excited much more as far as seeing a kit. I've been around for a little while, but this really get me going again. Beautiful. I'm also sure that Tamiya will do several versions or several renditions of this kit. I can almost guarantee I will do them all. Even when you hold it and the feel of it, the thickness of the plastic, it's again true to scale. They came very close. It's really light, it's thin, there are no thick pieces. It's just finesse, that's all I can say. Even when you manipulate the pieces and you hold it and you feel, just the feel of it, it's also true to, it feels true to scale actually. Because normally if you have an older kit, you're talking about an old Hasegawa or the whole monogram. I'm so excited about this that it's hard to keep your mouth shut when you handle a new, like a model like this. It's absolutely a wonder of engineering. The Tomcat was never one of my favorite airplanes. Maybe I'll step on a few toes here and there, but it was never one of my airplanes or models I got attracted to. It's only recently that I've started showing interest. After Danny's book came out, the Decals book came out, and then I was looking closer to it and start to feel more appreciated towards it. But when this came out, I absolutely felt the urge to build it. It's also funny when once you think you've seen it all and there is no improvement anymore, that engineering a model reaches the ceiling, then Tamiya does something like this, and things that you thought wouldn't be possible, they even surpassed it. Look at that. That's phenomenal. This is the cover plate of the machine gun here, or the cannon. It needs to be glued in there very carefully, but also when you clean it up, make sure you pay extra attention that you don't cut into the edge here. Take your time to clean this piece. Although it's very easy to do, it's also very easy to cut in there or make a mistake, or sometimes your knife slips and then you get a little tiny sliver on it, but it's enough to create a lot of problems, especially in a visible area where the gun is supposed to be. I don't know if you guys can see it here, but this is what I mean. Here you see the nice little panel line. If by any chance you slip by removing the ejection or the tap, the attachment tab to the sprue, if you, by removing that and you accidentally slip a little bit, that already can cause a lot of problems and heartache just to get that removed and get it patched up again. So it doesn't, you have a nice clean crisp panel line. So before you really start cutting, look at it a couple times and make sure that when you cut it that you stay away from the edges, and rather use a fine sanding stick to remove the excess instead of trying to cut as close as you can towards the edge, because that's where it easily can happen that you remove by a little sliver there, and to patch that up, that's not really easy. Just rubs in. Also, by gluing it, try to stay away from the edges with the glue so that you don't run the risk of having glue getting into the panel line, and then when you squeeze it, some of the glue would come out and spill over, and you don't want to do that. So the fit is tight enough to basically put enough glue here and just hold it in place instead of trying to cover the whole line around the edges, and that might lead to a mess. I would just stay away from that all and just glue into the middle. There you have it. Nice and clean. It's the same concept on the other side. This is a piece that needs to be laid in from the inside out. It forms a nice clean panel line around it. So don't try to glue it right here. There are two taps on there on both sides. So just add a little glue here and here, and then put it in place. And actually I would rather glue it here so you don't compromise the piece. So we do it a little bit here and a little bit here. And you don't have any problems with that. I was a little confused by this piece. I thought you had to glue that on top of the other one, but apparently it's a choice. You either close it or you leave it open. I decided to just close it up. Looks better too. Okay, so now we technically have all the components together from the cockpit and the part of the inside of the fuselage, so we can start airbrushing it into the correct color and then work it. All in all, this went very, very simple, very straightforward, very easy, very clean. We'll put the whole thing away for the time being. In the next chapter, we will tackle this to paint. I'm going to select the correct paint, or as close as I can. I'll let you guys know. and then I will show you how to go about in airbrushing and show you at least a couple tricks that I like, or that I can at least show you, and then maybe you can learn something, or maybe not. So we'll see. There is still time enough to tackle the wing, or part of the wing. Let's have a look at that. We just did some tedious work. This gives us a break of the nitty-gritty of detail. Now we can tackle a little bit bigger pieces, and as a matter of fact we can work with screws. So instead of gluing, we can screw some stuff in place. First of all, let's get the big pancake of the sprue and clean that up. See, this is also a little example where those premiums come into place. As you can see here, there are a couple tabs like that are located on the edge, which is a very good thing as far as cleaning up, and you don't have the risk in destroying some of the detail on the side. But still, they are very prominent and maybe a little harder to get off with a knife. Since you have nice clean premium snippers, you just put it on there and off it comes. The only thing you know is to scrape it a little with your knife, sand it, and you're good to go. I would, once you have a pair of these, and it doesn't have to necessarily be this one, but once you have a very good pair of nippers, like a premium like this, it's very important that you only keep it to cut pieces from the sprue, and that's why they will last for a long time. You do not cut any copper wire, you do not cut any metal or even resin. I wouldn't even touch it. I would just keep them for the sole purpose of removing delicate parts from their sprues, and then they will last forever. As I'm cleaning these, the top part of the fuselage, I see these area around the intakes here. If I remember correctly, when I was working on the Hasegawa version, which is, by the way, 20 years old, maybe 25 years old, the biggest part on that, although the Hasegawa kit is still a pretty good choice as far as a Tomcat, but around the intake area was such a pain in the bazongas. Sometimes you get burned out on that. I remember that there were gaps you couldn't reach, so that was very hard to do. So I'm really looking forward how Tamiya engineered this, and I'm sure they will do a better job, or have done a better job, but I'm still curious how it's all going to fit together. These pieces you really don't have to go all out of your way to clean them up, because they're not going to be visible. Take up most of it, just make it a little presentable. Put this here, and then just gonna glue it just very gently. Make sure these tabs stay in place. To make sure, seems like to work. So now we have to put a couple screws in there with a washer. And again, once you open the package, one of these bindi containers comes in handy. Make sure you don't lose anything. It's a little hard to do. I think I need a bigger screwdriver. It's a little tight, it's harder to do than I thought, but the screws really have to tap into the plastic, and you don't have to do it too tight. Just make sure that they don't wobble, you'll be fine. But it's definitely something you can do with this, because you need to exercise a little bit more power behind it, and it's very hard for the little, you need to really have a screwdriver a little bit more potent than this one. So anything will work. I just had this laying around here. Okay, now we're gonna clean up this. No need to really go out of your way, because this is a part that's completely obscured from view. You just have to make sure that some of the ejector tabs or attachment tabs are cleaned up so they don't interfere with the rest. Other than that, don't spend too much time doing it. Okay. This one is the small one. It's a little tedious. Honestly, you can either glue them in place. I'll leave that up to you, but since they provided the screws, might as well try it. And one more. I think it's kind of cool if you can swing the wings. There you have it. Oops. Okay guys, that was it for now. Visit us soon on our website at Squadron TV for the next chapter in the build. You can also like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, or subscribe to YouTube or Squadron TV itself. That way you'll get notifications when a new chapter is put up. So that was it for now. Jeff E here, signing off.